and thank you so much for being here. I am so excited to moderate this panel on women in tech and see so many friendly faces and new faces in the audience. We were talking about how to position this talk, women in tech, and just our chat backstage for 5 minutes made me feel really pumped up because we have some amazing stories and statistics to share, and we were also complimenting each other on our clothes and our heels. So it's a nice mix. It shows that women are multitasking, are really sharp, and have a lot of surprises up their sleeve. So just a quick introduction, and then I'll have them talk about themselves. Ambareen Musa, I've known her for a while. I actually remember sitting with you at Make when you were launching your business. SouqAlMal.com is the leading financial comparison site in the Middle East, and you can check the site out to see everything from credit card rates to car loans to nursery school fees. And I believe it's gone around the region, is that right?
Yes, now we've launched Saudi Arabia and our next one is Egypt.
Okay, perfect. And we'll hear more about that in a second. And Elissa Freiha is the co-founder of WOMENA, which is a network of angel investors. And she'll tell you a little bit more about the platform. So go ahead.
Oh, so it's a network of specifically female investors. And I can clarify a third time because every time we say they're female investors, people seem to have a filter in their head that think it's people investing in female entrepreneurs, which is a great thing to do, but that's not it. The concept is females who are investors. And for some reason, there seems to be a subconscious bias where it's totally supported for women to be entrepreneurs.
Well, it's called WOMENA. So
but it's called WOMENA.
So just to be perfectly clear.
Yeah.
It's a group of female angel investors that invest in startups by men and women.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm Sara Hamdan. I've been writing for the New York Times for about 6 years here, mainly on startups and culture. And I've also got a site coming up soon. It's got an Instagram account that's out now called Holidays in Heels. And it's all about style and travel inspiration, so you can check that out. So it's a very girly way to begin our talk. Thank you. I wanted to start off with just asking you about Ambareen, your startup journey. Can you tell us a little bit about your path? And then I want to go into a little bit how being a woman has either been an advantage, a disadvantage, or completely irrelevant to your journey.
So I started the business in 2012. My background is I'm originally from Mauritius. Did my first business when I was 21 back in Australia, which was sold after 2 years, and that's kind of my second stint at having a startup. I actually started my business on my maternity leave. Had my first baby, got bored after a couple of weeks. It was an idea that I had when I first got to Dubai in 2008. I came in post-INSEAD and thought 50 banks in the UAE, not a single aggregator site. And the fact that I'd launched the GE Money brand in the UK, I worked very closely with aggregators, which is where the concept came. And I think Amir from Bico Capital this morning mentioned something around there's a lot of Me Too's as startups. Well, I am a Me Too as well. It's bringing the concept from Europe into the Middle East. We've done really well. So the business has gone through 3 rounds of funding. We've grown revenues 300% from last year. We've launched Saudi Arabia in September last year, and we're launching our aggregator of car insurance next week. So customers will be able to buy car insurance online.
Let's give it up. In general, for an entrepreneur, that's
We're getting
pretty
there,
badass. That's amazing.
Thank you. And I had a second baby post my second round of funding last year. So yeah.
It's an amazing success story, and it's so great to have you here on stage. Elissa, I'd like to hear more about the companies that have pitched to you, what you look for in startups, and just a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we are one of the region's only manager-led angel groups, which means that we have an entire team whose full-time job it is to manage the investment process for our investors. There aren't a lot of angel investors in general, let alone female angels, so we just thought it would be easier if we took on the entire process. Which means we would source the deals and vet them before they pitch to our investor base. When we sourced them, we made sure to cast a really wide net. So we got to know all the VCs and the incubators and the accelerators and the business plan competitions, even the grant competitions in the region, and got them to send us their deals. WOMENA is able to offer a strategic value to them. So even if we weren't going to be giving a lot of funding, we knew that companies would be interested in pitching to us. We're not gender specific in the entrepreneurs that we look for. And what's interesting is of the companies that have pitched to WOMENA, we saw about 450 in our first year. that internally sent us their CVs, and we were on par with the statistical average of how many companies had female founders in the country. So there's about 28% of all tech startups in the region have a female on the founding team, and 25% of all of our applicants had a female on the founding team. So that was really exciting for us. And then when it came to actually pitching to our investors, we funneled it down so that we only had 20 companies pitching, and that kept the statistical average of actually 50-50. So 50% of those companies had a female on the founding team, and of the companies that we funded, we had same thing, 50-50. So we do look for companies that have been around for a year, 2 years, growth, traction, all that, strong team. But it's really about companies that we are going to be able to help build and grow with the angel network.
Because you have a mentorship angle as well, is that right?
So we do have a mentorship angle, but I think most angels have a mentorship angle. Angels are here to not only provide capital, but they're here to help you. Like VCs, some VCs are very hands-on helping you out, and angels too. Angels are there to give you experience, education, to give you their networks. And a lot of times, specifically within women, they might not realize the value that they have outside of just capital. They might be intimidated to invest in the first place, but then they go, oh, okay, I can invest for a smaller amount, but what else, what else am I worth? And it's up to us to tell them, actually, you worked here, you went through this university, or you lived in this market, and so you have networks there that your companies can then utilize to get into. So really making them understand that value is great.
We're going to delve into a little detail in a little bit on the whole VC and entrepreneurship ecosystem, but just to touch on the women angle one more time. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, why did you focus on female investors specifically? Do you find that there are a lot of them, and it's about encouraging even more to come?
Yeah, I think initially what was really interesting when we came here to launch WOMENA, it was called United Arab Angels.
Okay, that's cute.
And it was an angel network. And because we were, just young women who were thinking, well, if you focus on gender, then it's only making the gender issue worse, and, it doesn't matter. But we immediately assumed that we'd be working for, an entire network of males. So the visual that we had in our minds when we were coming here to launch this angel network, it was, okay, so we're 220-something females. How the hell are we going to get all these guys to take us seriously and listen to us about investment in the MENA region? And it wasn't until after about 6 weeks when we went to all the events and we realized, actually, we are the only women, and they are all men. It's not even that there's 10 or 15% women, that we said there have to be more ladies in this space. Where are they? So we kind of set out to try and find who the active angels were. We found, a handful, and we realized statistically that a lot of things pointed to the potential for a very large angel base here of women specifically for this market. And if we could only tap into that, raise awareness for angel investing, bank on the fact that startups are a really hot topic right now, and really, take advantage of that PR that was already being done, we'd be able to branch out from the usual suspects that were already in the space.
Okay, and from the startup side, why do you think it's important to encourage women to start their own businesses?
Look, if I turn the question around a little bit, is it a difference? And I get asked a lot of that. Is it different being a woman starting a business? It's absolutely irrelevant from a business perspective. I hear, though, from VCs that women are better at running businesses, so I'll take credit for that. However, from a personal perspective, it makes a big difference. And I've got 2 kids, and whether we like it or not, I still have home responsibilities. I still have to look after those kids, and it makes things tougher and many more things to juggle. But on the positive side, it makes me a lot more efficient. However, now you go one step ahead. We've just launched into Saudi, and I spend probably 2-3 times a month in Saudi Arabia at the moment. And I'm going to say this not to sound, I hope it doesn't come out bad, but I have never used as many male toilets in my life than in the last few months. Just because when I go to Saudi and I go visit my clients, there are no female toilets. So be it. So there are some hurdles that depending on the market you go to, that makes it harder. So I guess if I was male, it would have been much easier for me to get on the plane and just meet clients. And there are a lot of clients in Saudi Arabia because we deal a lot with banks, that what I do is we have to meet at hotels versus the actual bank because I'm not allowed in as a female. I've got banks where I go and they have to literally block out a lift just for me, just because I'm in the building. The lift is actually blocked with a key. So there are challenges that you need to face, but in the UAE itself, for me, it's irrelevant completely. In Saudi, it is relevant. From a business perspective, it's not. It's irrelevant, but from a personal level, absolutely.
I completely agree with you. I think you hit the nail on the head. One of my favorite TV shows that I record all the time is Shark Tank, and one of the investors, Kevin O'Leary, I think he said that 55% of the companies in his portfolio are female-led. So he's saying that he doesn't have a bias, and if anything, when he looked at his portfolio, it surprised him to see that there were so many women. But that on a personal note, when he talks to some of these women, it's about that work-life balance and how to achieve that. Can you tell me if you feel like you have nailed that part of your life?
So I run I almost say my life is almost military, but I have a very specific timing. So at 6:30, I have to be out of the office. I have to be at home. And my phone is off between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, I start work again. So get up at 6, get kids to school by 7. By 8 o'clock, I'm in the office. So you kind of need to lead a very, very, very structured life. Now, I'm a consultant by background, so it's not so hard. Yeah. You're kind of used to structure. My fridge is full of timetables of dinner, lunch, breakfast, after-school activities. I mean, and that's literally, I live on Excel.
But this is all because there's these conventional gender roles, right? That you're taking care of a lot of this stuff, and that's where, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier. There are people. I mean, entrepreneurs can be fathers too, right? But they might not be expected to juggle the same thing that females who are mothers have to, right?
But I would also say we never pause the question. I don't know any, I mean, how many of you, let's see a raise of hand, how many of you have gone to a conference when we've asked, Mudassir was on this morning, we've never asked him, how do you juggle work-life balance? Yeah. And I can tell you, he has one. Asked. For sure.
That's true.
I'm sure he does.
But that's just the entrepreneurial struggle, though. Like, as an entrepreneur in general, how do you manage work and life? How do you manage sleep and family and friends and gym and eating, like, actual food on a regular basis? And not going crazy, and your business, and growing the numbers and all that. It's just an issue for entrepreneurs as a whole. I'm not married, I have no kids, right? So the fact that she was able to have a second child and start the business, and that blows my mind because I can barely grow my own company, right?
When you had your baby, right?
So I started the business on the maternity leave from MasterCard, which is when I went back for a month and I decided never to go back again.
Yeah.
That's when I quit. And at ArabNet Beirut, actually, that's how the company started.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the general kind of startup VC scene. I wanted to know from you, given that this is such a tech-savvy generation, a lot of the businesses that we're seeing crop up are online. Do you feel that it matters where you live or where you're based to start a business? Should you be in Silicon Valley, or is it okay to be anywhere?
So I'll give an example of my own company. We chose to be in Dubai because strategically it was the best place for our company to grow. However, we have a team of 5, and 2 of our team members are based abroad full-time. One of them was based in Sweden up until 3 months ago, and then she moved to New York. The other one was based in New York, and then he moved to London, and then he moved to Gibraltar, and for the past 2 months he's between Bali and Bangkok. And it doesn't matter where they're based. It's a lot of frequent
flyer miles.
I mean, he could do whatever he wants. He's a rock star who delivers on time and is available during work hours, available outside of work hours, really still cares about what he's doing, and he's proven that. So, you know, if Rory tells me, so I'm going to go to Bali for a month, I'm like, great, as long as you have internet connectivity and you're on the team call once a week, and you're on Slack from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Dubai time, you can do whatever the hell you want, right? And you deliver what you need to. And that's very modern company, right? And 2 of our team members have never met. Rory and Nicole, who are based abroad, they've never met each other. And we're functioning quite fine. But we'd like to still have for our own interests, right? So that I'm not the only one that has to go to conferences. I'd love to have more team members physically here. But the technological revolution means you can start valuing talent and quality without having to pay for relocation costs, for example.
And your business is rooted here. It filled a gap in the market, really.
Yeah, I think you'll see when you talk to investors, it's a lot about market size, and I'm sure a lot of you entrepreneurs out there who've been pitching for funding, it's about, hey, how big is your market? A company like mine in Asia could be worth 10 times more just because the size of the market is 10 times bigger, so it's about the potential. We've set up here, one, because we're a Me Too company, which means Europe is done. There's 5 aggregators out of the UK, the US is done. So you kind of follow where the market is. And I've seen actually a lot of entrepreneurs kind of going, wait, 6 months later, they realize this is not the market I should be in. I should actually be going out to Silicon Valley. Not because they feel like it, but because either this is where the opportunity is, this is where the money is, or this is where the fundraising potentially can happen. So the choice of country of setting up is very much around where the opportunity exists and where the market exists. And I happen to be here.
Yeah, me too. One of the benefits of being here, from your perspective, is that mobile penetration rates are really high. So I'm curious what your strategy was for mobile, and if there's an app.
Very interesting. So our site in the UAE, the visits is around 65% smartphone. In Saudi Arabia, it's 90%. Wow. So we don't even worry about desktop anymore in Saudi. It's a very mobile-first approach, and everything we do is designed, set up, tested on the mobile first before actually moving on to then whatever they do on desktop. I don't really care because that's where my majority of so we have the strategy of you asked me about mobile app versus, so we run a business where somebody needs a mortgage once a year. Somebody will look at a credit card probably 4 times a year. So having an app is kind of not really in line foreseen future right now. It's not from a need, but once we launch insurance, yes, it's probably something we'll be looking at. But there is kind of a gray area between mobile first sites and mobile apps. Remember, with the mobile apps, you've got a whole lot of costs involved in actually getting downloads. Your metrics completely changes. Your business model even changes from a customer acquisition perspective.
Elissa, are you seeing people pitch a lot more ideas that have to do with mobile?
Yeah.
Or
I mean, everybody. I think that's just the trend. Most of the companies that you'll see are going to be these sexy app companies, right? And a lot of times, that's just more relatable. First-time entrepreneurs will look at something that's, easily understandable for them, and there'll be a lot of B2C businesses, a lot of really sexy, I have the Uber for whatever, right? Everything is an Uber for everything.
Yeah.
But specifically looking at our investor base tends to prefer B2C deals and relatable products. And so a lot of apps tend to fall under that category.
Can you share an example of a company that you've invested in, or is it?
No, of course, happy to. So let's say of the 2 companies we invested in last year, one is a mobile app called Mel2 that's buying and selling of secondhand goods. And it's kind of like Dubizzle, shinier, kind of, prettier, better UX. And then you have an in-app chat option, which allows you to kind of vet buyers before putting out your personal information. You have a buy button immediately in the chat without actually giving out your personal information, so you can buy the product, get it delivered, cash on delivery, etc. And that's a very simple model, right, to look at, to understand as an investor. You can see the market capabilities, you can see an exit, you have comparables. The other company we invested in is called Alam Health, which is a telemedicine platform that puts patients in developing countries in touch with doctors in developed countries for a second opinion. That's not an app at all. That's much more complex. It has a social mission to it. But it was a hit with our investors. So
it's very diverse, though. So
it is,
you're just looking for strong, proven concepts.
Exactly, strong, proven concepts. But also, we had 2 companies that pitched a week ago that our investors are jumping on now, and they're here. So I'm going to give them a little shout out. Both Wrap Up and Office Rock were big hits. But Office Rock, for example, is a website that sells office supplies. So that is a B2C market, but there's also a B2B angle. And then you've got Wrap Up, which is a very interesting enterprise software approach. And so voice analytics and things like, I mean, people will be interested if the entrepreneur is interested, but sometimes if it's a very tech-heavy company and the entrepreneur isn't necessarily good at communicating the idea behind his business, then the investors, at least our investors, won't tend to be as inspired to invest in them.
So would that be your top piece of advice for anyone coming to pitch?
Yeah, share your passion. I want to be able to feel it from a mile away. I want to, you know, I know Joy earlier was saying FOMO. Everyone wants to feel FOMO, and it's not just that. It's, you know, I talk about us being a community of just delusionally enthusiastic optimists, right? You want to change the world, and your business is the next big thing, and we want to help you change the world, and we want to make it the next big thing. A majority of people are going to fail, right? But we still play this game, and we still kind of get involved, and I think what makes it run is the passion behind it.
You're hoping for the winner.
Yeah. And, you know, the VCs are passionate about what they do, and the angels are passionate about what they do, and the successful ones are the ones that are able to communicate that passion to others.
So passion and knowledge. And from your perspective, from a startup, what is, I guess, the top 2 pieces of advice that you would give somebody when they're beginning their path? Yeah.
I think passion is remember the next, I've done this for 4 years now, it's a roller coaster. It's up and down, you don't sleep at night, there's things that keep you awake.
Like
your family life gets affected, that's a given. There's no way out of it. This is a passion you want to follow. It's not a joke, I think that's how I'm going to put it. It's not a 9-to-5 job. One of the areas I completely underestimated when I started the business was people management. And I can tell you I'm not good at it. So I've actually hired a great team around me to manage the people for me. It's about, what I have noticed is in the hiring process, a couple of things. So in the hiring process, what I do is I actually sell SouqAlMal before I even interview the person. Because I need them to be sold in the concept, I need them to be sold in the passion that I have for this business, and I need them to believe in it as much as I do. Then I'll worry whether they fit the business or not. One thing. Second thing is, and it was mentioned this morning as well about governance, about structure, one of the best money I've ever spent in SouqAlMal was from day one. I did not even have a company registered yet, and I hired a lawyer. And today, it pays off. We've got the 3 rounds of funding, and I've heard from my investors, we've probably got the cleanest shareholder agreement they've ever seen. From a company structure to how the shareholder agreement was set up, it was very clean for the next round of funding as well. So that's the best money out of my own pocket I spent from day one. Most people told me, why are you wasting your money? Like, why are you doing this? But I was aware, so I come from a family of entrepreneurs, my dad, my mom. I was aware how legal issues could actually bring out a whole lot of cases you didn't want to deal with eventually.
And failure is part of the journey, so this is
yeah, but the problem is once, and as your business grows, it just gets more complicated. It's very simple. You would say, why do I need somebody for a shareholder agreement? Isn't as if you're 2 or 3 or 4 people. I've had a case, friends of mine came to me and said there were 3 of them, they trusted each other, they were going in it, and the one thing I told her was, get a shareholder agreement in place. She was like, we don't need it, we trust each other, we're good friends. And I said, get a shareholder agreement in place. Actually, 2 months later, one of the girls decided to quit. So they found themselves with a rental contract for 200,000 dirhams. They were stuck, they were supposed to distribute it among 3, there were only 2 of them left. And lucky enough, she had a shareholder agreement that allowed the equity to come back into the business, etc., etc. So get a lawyer in place from day one.
So get things in writing.
Get things in writing between your co-founders, make sure you know what's going to happen if ever. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, and you will find co-founders, especially if you're 3 or 4 or 5 people. Some of you may not take the stress very well. Some of you may decide, actually, this is not for me. I've tested, I've tried it. I want to go and do a corporate job that pays me 5 times more. It happens. Always think about what could go wrong. Not to be pessimistic about your business, but mitigate the risks.
And from my experience as a journalist, just interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs, I've heard about the trials and tribulations. So from a personal perspective, I always try and support entrepreneurs whenever I can. I use your site regularly to check things. I use Kareem here to get around. And today I'm wearing a shirt from an amazing social enterprise called Teta Leila, which employs Palestinian women to make modern clothing. And you can buy their stuff online, and it's amazing. So just join me in this endeavor to support entrepreneurs in their journey, because it's hard work. And follow me on Instagram at Holidays and Heels.
I was going to say, actually,
Yeah.
there was a very insightful article that came out in the New York Times specifically about the kind of the unseen dark side of entrepreneurship and how
Yeah.
30% of entrepreneurs are diagnosed with some sort of depression.
I know.
Thank you.
And then on
I'm
top of
gonna-
it, you have another 15 to 25 that will deal with some sort of psychological disorder. It's such a difficult thing that you're getting into,
It is.
regardless of gender.
But then when you think about why they get into it, and it's driven by that passion,
Right.
and when you win, it is that amazing feeling. And you have somebody like Ambareen sitting in front of you who shows you that it can be done even with children, and she's so successful. It really sparks that hope. So I want to end on that happy note. But thank you guys so much. It was an amazing talk.
Thank you, Sarah.